So do you want to kind of give a rundown on who you are and what you do now and your
Okay,
background?
sure. My name is Marcus Zillman. I am the executive director of the Virtual Private Library. I've been involved in the internet for more years than I want to think about, going back to the early 90s and being part of the original search engines that were created back then. I'm very familiar with Google and its original algorithm that they used. Very familiar with search engines prior to Google. We have such as when we did a telnet, we did search. When we did file transfer protocol back then, before the web, we did search called Archie, ARCHIE for archive search. And we did Gopher search, which is named for the mascot of the University of Minnesota, which allowed you to search all the Gopher sites, which were very popular. I wrote many a manual on Gophers, and Gophers would give you an index of information, still out there because you didn't have to have the power of being able to transmit images, etc., across the net. It was just text. So I discussed that and got heavily involved with that. And then Tim Berners-Lee came around, and one day at a nightclub, I guess, or at a cocktail party, he got an idea of the World Wide Web, and the Mosaic browser became in being, and that changed the world. And another browser called Netscape came into being, and that changed the world. Mark Anderson was going to change the world, and did change the world in many ways to show what could be done and what would be done. And I was involved in working with the internet. I can remember on Sundays I would download software, and I would go to church, start to download, go to church, and come back, and it would still be downloading. And that was probably just a small file, but it just took a long time. And now it's it's a whole different ballgame. So I've been involved in educating and teaching people about the internet. Back in the late mid 90s, I created a site called BotSpot. And BotSpot became one of the most popular sites on the internet, not because I'm a genius, it's because it was at the right time, at the right place. Like so many things happened on the
Yeah.
internet. I couldn't keep up with the number of people who wanted to subscribe to my newsletter. It was crazy. I mean, hundreds and one day thousands. I was like, this is unbelievable. And but anyway, BotSpot took off, and it became a spot for all bots and intelligent agents on the internet. I've always been ahead of my time, and today I can talk bots and intelligent agents to people, and they're still interested and excited. In fact, some people in the elderly population still don't know what a bot is and intelligent agent is, and they're learning very fast now because of what's happening. But that BotSpot became very popular, and then in 1999 I sold it to Alan Meckler, who had internet, and at the top of the bubble back in the 90s when the bubble burst. And I did that before that, and Alan bought it, and we did workshops and whatnot for Alan in 2000, 2001 on bots and intelligent agents, and this type of thing were very popular. And then I created the Virtual Private Library, which I have been for many, many years the executive director, and I wanted to give back to the internet community. So I took my bots, took my subjects that I liked, and there end up being about 54 subjects, and I made subject tracers out of them. And the bot would go out, find information about it, bring it back, put it into the tracer, and automatically it would be put onto the internet free of charge to people. So what I was doing back then was creating mini Yahoos, except on specific subjects, and making it available absolutely free to the internet community as it is today and continues to be. And then I continue to speak and to lecture about the internet. Spoke to many, many organizations, to their boards, talked to some national organizations. I remember talking to the National Printing Association in Washington. I wasn't the keynote speaker that time. I think that time it was the president of the United States.
Wow.
But I was right after him in the green room with him. But anyway, I came out and said, I feel like I'm Paul Revere. I'm telling you guys, in a pretty industry, the internet is coming. The internet is coming. And a lot of them shook their head and couldn't quite figure it all out. And I said, you will. And that Heidelberg press that's sitting there that cost all that money one day might very well be replaced. You just never know. And I also spoke to the National, the National Association of Travel Agents.
Wow.
And I did that in '98 in Miami. nice group, big group, a couple thousand. And I said the same thing to them, but except I said, you know what's going to happen in the future? And listen, I said, people are going to buy airplane tickets direct, and you
Yeah.
won't be able to sell them because they're going to buy them direct over the internet. They hissed, they booed, they couldn't believe it. This type of
Yeah.
thing. 3 years later, they asked me to come back to tell them how to handle that type of a project and this type of thing. So it's very exciting. My expertise is artificial intelligence and machine learning, and I've been involved in artificial intelligence for many, many years, and now it's going on to its own. And I forecasted that we would have an ethics problem with artificial intelligence,
Yeah.
and I do, because people who program the algorithms are themselves have their own ethics they put into it, no different than a person that creates an index. Those indexes are based on ethics that the person has who puts in index information. So when they say they're going to create artificial intelligence that will be able to understand ethics, that's a big project, big project, but it's all happening, and it's happening very fast. And I'm excited about it because everything that I've talked about and wanted to happen is happening, including the education format, where I was happy when MOOCs came on board, and Coursera. In fact, Coursera is now going public. It's unbelievable. But anyway, I was happy that we would be able to do online training. And online training is not new. Online training's been around for 20 years. But now it's come to the point where everyone is doing it. Big difference between now and then. And that's very exciting because I say this is going to change the way education and resources are being done, and how you'll be
I
able
agree with that.
to and or take short courses and this type of a thing. But we're seeing it all compliments of Zoom. Zoom isn't the real answer. Zoom is one of the answers because people are even getting fatigued of that. This type of thing. Podcasting, the same thing. People are starting to get fatigued of that.
Yeah.
There will be new and better ways, and that's truly exciting. We're going to have virtual reality. We're going to have all these types of things that we talked about but didn't have the bandwidth. When 5G does become a reality, and I just read a big white paper on 6G. So 5G
Already, wow.
already. The 5G isn't here yet. I mean, most people don't have 5G. Most people have light, and they at slow speeds. And if they get 50 or 60, they're tickle pink. And 5G is supposed to be 1,000 and more. Eventually, it will all happen, and when that does, that will be exciting. And technology creates technology. All the little satellites are going up, and the Star Network are all transmitting the internet, and they're going to transmit it at high speeds. So that's going to force all these telecommunication companies down here to make 5G work. Now they're marketing the heck out of it, saying it's 5G, and it's not quite 5G. But it's better than what people had before when they had no speed at all. So, but lots of exciting things happening on the internet. I'm blessed the fact that I gone back to the very beginning. I participated in the beginning, and I'm still now actively participating. And now, even though my age may show some gray hair, I still am very heavily involved, and that's my passion, to be able to see all this stuff work in a very positive and helping humankind way.
So you mentioned that you wrote bots. What programming languages do you use for those?
There's various books. If you go to botresearch.info, and I'll name it on my sites, but if you just go to zillman.us, they're all there, or a virtual. Anyway, botresearch.info is where I put all the information on how to build a bot.
Yeah.
You want to build a bot, and I would go in detail to it, but each bot is different, and each bot takes different programming language. You can do it with Python, you can do it with C++, you can do it with no code now. And everybody's pushing no code because they don't want to go back to a class to learn how to code, and that's okay too. But there's lots of ways to build bots, and a bot basically is a script. A script can be, like I say, C++ or Python, or they even work on no code. And it challenges the internet by going out and searching the various files for keywords and metadata. That hasn't changed much. That's how it all started with Google years ago in 1995, 96. They searched for keywords. They just got more advanced and been able to search deeper. But a bot goes out and searches. So there's some files, when you create a file, you can create a file, and in that file you can say no search, no text, no file, no able for bot text is called, and that won't allow a bot to search it. Now, we also have what we call bots that are negative. and they'll search regardless. They'll just go out and
Hmm.
find, scour and get that information. But majority of bots are good bots, and they scour the information that's allowed to them, the metadata, the title, the description, the keywords, and then the languages is in this because they become more sophisticated. And it can also look into now PDFs. It can look into docs. It can look into other types of file suffix, prefixes and suffixes that are out there. Used to be one difficult one, used to be PostScript, PS. And it still is difficult. That's what all the theses in master's degree and PhD degrees are written in PostScript. That's all their theses are done. And just now has become, even Google has still a tough time searching PostScript files out there because it's very difficult. The software is very difficult to work with, et cetera. So it's happening and more. I love to search PostScript documents because that's theses mainly. I'd say 90% of the PostScript documents are theses. Theses, as a rule, are new knowledge. That's a person is writing about something new or this type of thing. So that's where I discover knowledge. And knowledge discovery can be into the footnotes, can be into the metadata, can be into the information of many of those PostScript files. And that's very exciting because I like to discover new knowledge. And people say, well, there's no such thing as new knowledge. Every day I
Yeah.
learn something new.
Oh, exactly. Well, you're kind of what you're doing is making like a digital library of Alexandria.
Yeah, kind of. That's true. Never thought of it
Yeah.
that way. But that's
Yeah.
what
I mean,
yeah.
you're,
And
and
I and
it's
I
free. It's freely accessible.
It's freely accessible, all 54 subject tracers, and every day the little bots go out and search and come. I've got 2 or 3 of the bots have gotten so good that I don't have to check them all the time. Now, for a while, it's like your son. You have to check them.
Yeah.
They're too quiet. You got to go find out what's going
Go
on,
make
right?
sure everything's going okay. Yeah.
That's right. So my bots are the same way. And so I've been put the bots out for a number of years, but there are 2 or 3 of them now that have done a very, very good job of coming back with appropriate and competent information that is reliable. And that's programmed into it over a period of time. You slap them when they're not good. You praise them
Yeah.
same thing as a child and this type of thing. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite programming language?
No. I've taken
Whatever
no.
whatever
Yeah,
it needs.
whatever accomplishes the job. I shouldn't say that I don't have, but what I've done is been able to mix some of them together and create what I wanted to
Oh,
create
wow.
over a period of time, showing the results of the two and this type of a thing. And I wasn't hampered by anybody working for myself and creating the virtual private library. I was my most worst critic, and probably far more worse than probably if did have a boss, because I'm really pushed to have competency and reliability in
Yeah.
information.
So what are your thoughts on, you have this database. What are your thoughts on a centralized versus a decentralized database?
I'm a big believer in decentralized
Yeah.
information for a couple of reasons. The first reason would be that if you have information decentralized, it's hard to lose
Yeah.
because if one side of it has it, you can turn around and get the other. I also feel that data. In fact, I just did my column for April, and I did it on 2021 resources for what was it? Resources for data, big data, and statistics. Now, what we find out is that when you have databases that are open and decentralized versus centralized, many of the decentralized have become open sources as well. And that allows people to get more information and freely usable going through GitHub and those other types of things we're doing the software. While centralized database, Bill Gates loves them.
Yeah.
All the big boys, Jeff
Big
loves them.
corporations.
Of course,
Yeah.
that's how. What? In fact, he was very smart. I have to handle it. He got in. Amazon got into books, but they made their rig money in their servers.
Yeah.
WS.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he that and he really did, and that's a central server, and they use the cloud, of course, but the cloud's just a gigantic central server in my mind, and it's nice, but it's not a decentralized type of a product and this type of thing.
Do you have any thoughts on, I'm big into Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, mainly Bitcoin, but the technology of blockchain. What do you think of blockchain itself as a data structure?
I'm impressed with blockchain, always have been. I've done a number of researches myself on blockchain and always has come up in a positive way. I was also kind of interested to see that PayPal now accepts Bitcoin. which is real revolution as far as a lot of the traditional people are coming around cyber currency more and more and more. Problem I see with a lot of it, like Bitcoin, is mining it. And to mine the Bitcoins, a lot you get into this and people don't quite understand all that, but it's got to be mined. And one of the biggest areas we were getting it from, guess what? China.
Yeah, they're
And now
huge.
China has problem. Mongolia especially have a carbon problem because of the coal mines and the coal producing power. Through coal, they have required all the miners to close shop next month.
Yeah.
So that's going to put a real stress on some of the world of the Bitcoin. Interesting to speak. So there's a lot of variables there that's happening, but it's all very exciting. And when we add digital to it, it makes it all. It's got to go that way. Just like artificial intelligence had to come that way. Same way which before we had basic computers that we had to have server farms had to go that way. Bitcoin, same thing. It's got to go. We've got to get the world monetary organizations and the governments to go along with it. They're afraid the heck of it, and they don't know exactly what to do. From our country to other countries, China knows only one thing: they want to control it.
Yeah.
And we can't have that. So that's got to all be worked out, and that will be the slowest part of the whole thing. Technology is raring to go. We've got horses on a side track; they're ready to go. They're ready. Let's go. And the countries are what's slowing it up right now.
I agree.
And the reason it's slowed up is that the countries haven't received the education and the competency of education about what it all is and how it all works. And that has to happen. Hopefully, we'll get people involved in it who are more interested rather than making a profit to begin with, because a lot of people have made a lot of money in Bitcoin.
Oh, yeah.
Let's educate everybody. Let's educate the world about it. If that happens, that will make that much more acceptable and faster to many of the countries that will be involved.
Well, if you look at the places that are mostly using Bitcoin, it's like Nigeria, Venezuela, places that inflation has just run rampant.
Exactly.
And it's just a way to preserve your wealth, which is really interesting because when Bitcoin was created, Satoshi viewed it as a currency. But in its current state, it's more of a store of value.
That's right. Exactly. Value store. That's very true.
Yeah, it's much more like digital gold than a digital dollar.
Right.
Which is just really interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting. And that's but because of that, though, it also creates spontaneous ups and downs to it. And to have good financial security, you have to have more of a control basis of that, rather, even though the stock market at times does the same thing. But what I'm saying is, up and down, but you've got to have something that's more secure. The diamond people have been very good over the years, and gold and silver, to create a product that's non-dollar, that has value, a store of value. And diamonds were good because you could put a lot of diamonds in your pocket and leave. So it's good, this type of a thing. Gold, you couldn't do that, but it was accepted worldwide and this type of a thing. And it was backed at one time, the dollar backed gold, this type of thing. So that whole area of cyber currency is, and blockchain probably the answer to the security part of it, because it's very strong.
Yeah.
And not to say it hasn't been broken. I think it has, but not to say that that's the answer, and that's the answer that can work and has been working and getting the job done.
Do you actually have bots that are scanning for blockchain stories, blockchain information, stuff like that?
Of course. Oh, yeah. They go out and scan for that. And again, in new types of words now, Bitcoin's not new.
No,
I've had a bot doing scanning for Bitcoin since 2015.
Yeah.
It brings back a lot. And yes, to answer that question, and I try to also catch anything that is pronounced and comes to fact. Artwork, crypto artwork now.
NFTs.
It's just gone crazy. And so I have a bot. I've had a bot on that for about 3 months. I should have had one on. It's been around for longer than that, but in the last 2 or 3 months, you get something and all of a sudden this little thing's worth $10 million. It's amazing.
It's crazy. It's
you know,
crazy.
and so, but there's reason for all that. The market, the economy, and the digital economy, if you want to call it that way, the new economy, is trying to find its place. Is
Yeah, I
trying to
agree.
find what it is, and you'll see streaks back. I think the digital art is a good thing. I
I do
think
too.
it's going through a time where you have your ups and downs, but I think it will level off to some extent, and then you'll be able to purchase value just like a Bitcoin, except it will be a painting and this type of thing. So yeah, so I think that's very interesting.
Well, on top of that, digital artwork. What do you think about augmented reality? I know you mentioned virtual reality, but do you do anything with augmented
Of course,
reality?
augmented reality is a
Um,
great area, but and both virtual reality and augmented reality have had their problems. Meaning, everybody talked about it. It was hyped. Gardner hyped it, his hype scale, and and all this type of a thing. But at the end of the day, it hasn't taken off the way a lot of people
yeah.
thought it would. Virtual reality is the same way. It's just now starting to see more and more of it. But I always say to find out how a product in a digital economy is going to do, make sure it becomes a game first,
Hmm.
because games seem to be the first ones that take a hold of these things.
Well,
And
yeah, that's how people got entertainment systems in their home.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And they'll spend money for home entertainment. They may not spend money for
Hmm.
education or learning the way they see
Yeah.
it, but for entertainment, they'll do that. So I always say that if we see, and so I think that both virtual reality and augmented reality have their place. The reason that it hasn't taken off in my mind is that the corporate CEOs again don't have the education to understand it and how it
Hmm.
can be used within the enterprise marketplace.
Speaking of, we talked about artificial intelligence. In order, I kind of think that artificial intelligence is going to show the best and the worst of humanity.
No question about it.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Do you think that there should be a like a government regulatory something to oversee the production of artificial intelligence on a large scale, sort of like the SEC with the stock exchange? Do you think there should be
Yeah,
a
to answer that question, the government's already in the process of doing that. There's
okay?
a bill that just went into the floor of the House of Representatives last Saturday that has information about how they want to be able to evaluate based on competency, based on a lot of tunes and this type of thing. There's been a big ethics discussion on
I
AI,
can imagine.
and two of the people at Google, and Google has a very large amount of money invested in AI. They have their own AI department, and the two of the top people in them were let go because there was a conflict in how Google saw the ethics and how they saw the ethics. So to answer your question, yes, it will happen, but it will be a slow, drawn out process, and there'll be a lot of sides on both sides wanting what they want. Corporations wanting to be their ethics involved and finding more information about you and
Yeah.
me using AI to do that. While the people will say, no, we want more privacy for us. We want to be able to let you know what we want. And if we do let you know what we want, we're going to charge you for that too, because
Yeah.
that's our information. We worked hard to create that information, and we aren't just going to give it away like you've been taking it. So those two sides have already started, and there'll be, and all the big companies. You notice Google's into it, Microsoft's into it. All the big companies have AI groups and divisions that are making AI work. Now the problem is it's going to take off, and they've got to be able to control it. And
So
if
do
they
you
don't do a good job of controlling it, AI may eat us up.
That's what I was going to say. And do you think in order for an artificial intelligence to turn hostile, it would have to be programmed with emotions, or do you think we would have an artificial intelligence that was just purely logical? Do you think there
Uh,
would be, or it would
I,
develop emotions of its own, or
well, general artificial
its own
intelligence,
morality, I
yeah,
guess?
Yeah, and that's a good point. And there's certainly academics who are working on that through what they call general artificial intelligence, and many of them become a little bit scared because of that,
Yeah.
because the artificial intelligence has taken on a mindset of their own. Uh, we use artificial intelligence for many years more than the population realizes. A couple of our satellites that have gone outside the solar system had artificial intelligence programmed into them just to be able, in case the computer would go bad, it could fix itself. So, and that has worked. So the background of artificial intelligence isn't something in the last couple of years. It goes back for many, many years. One thing that will aid or not aid artificial intelligence will be quantum computing.
Oh
And
yeah.
quantum computing is taking off.
In a big way.
In a big way. And quantum computing combined with blockchain and artificial intelligence, then you've got a rocket ship that who knows who will be able to control. Who
Hmm.
knows who will be able to control? It may make a decision that we're going to cancel you, just like they're talking about canceling things now. All of
Yeah.
a sudden, it's not going to be Democrats or Republicans doing it. It's going
It's
to
gonna
be
be
a
humanity.
machine that just doesn't like the way you look.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, okay, speaking of machines and robots, you have Boston Dynamic, and they're making just amazing robotics.
Oh, yeah.
Um, do you envision a future where space travel is mainly done by an artificial intelligence with the use of robots? As we humans, as of right now, we don't have the technology to land on Europa, for instance. And there's a possibility of life there. If we could send robots under the guide of an artificial intelligence, would that sort of, and this kind of sounds like Blade Runner,
Mhm.
but
Yeah, no, you
you
sound
know,
again me too, but
yeah,
Europa definitely. Yes, I think the answer to that is you're going to have the individuals, and we have Elon and others who want to be able to send people to Mars, to
yeah,
colonize Mars. And then people look at what Mars looks like, and there's not too much there. It all have to be underground, et cetera. But local things, which I would classify Mars as being local in the
yeah,
scheme of things, we'll probably humans would explore that. But to explore Europa or other areas, and if we can go with the speed of light, we'll be able to visit other close stars and stuff. Definitely would be robots controlled by artificial intelligence in the system, which would have a master controller back here.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you think an artificial intelligence would be able to develop some form of, like right now, our energy is all based on you put something in, something shoots out. Do you think
Right.
that there will be an artificial intelligence that is able to advance human technology to the point of speed of light or near speed
Yeah.
of light travel?
I would love to be able to see artificial intelligence disapprove Einstein's theory.
Yeah.
Okay, that solves the problem right
Well,
there.
well, I mean, the whole thing is, these amazing chess masters, even they
Right?
they can't hold a candle to a computer.
No, that's right.
And once we get quantum computing, and then we get artificial intelligence that running on quantum computing,
Right.
the
It's going to be
possibilities are
it's going to be exciting. It's
yes.
20 years ago when I told the Printer Association the internet is coming. The internet. I feel
Yeah,
like Paul Revere. Well, now what I'm telling people is the internet is coming through quantum computing,
yeah,
and it's going to change everything in this world.
yeah. I totally agree. Quantum computing has been something that I've been looking into for the last little bit, fairly recently, and it's astounding. I mean, it really
Yeah, it
is.
really
It's
is.
revolutionary.
It is. And I tell youngsters that are growing up now and what they want to do in the future, I said, you got to get involved in data
Yeah,
one way or another because all these computers have to have data to begin with, and how that data is indexed and how that data is vaulted and how that data is done is a key to how those computers and the quantum computers are going to be done. And so that's an exciting area. And now even people involved in data are making big dollars, but they're going to even make bigger ones. And life itself is data.
yeah,
And
yeah,
we as people and as our population over the years have filled out form after form after form for the government. workman's comp forms, all these forms, healthcare, all the forms, right? Really, nothing has been done with them except they put into a database. Before that, they were put into files. You
Yeah.
go to a doctor's office, and you see 10,000 files, right? They were never searched except when they wanted to see what the client was doing right now. Nothing. We are going to see all this data put to use. And with quantum computing, and even now with artificial intelligence, they'll be able to scan, crawl through that information and seek out and find out new information. And that's a key to new information, crawling through and finding out files that haven't been made available. And there's so many data sets now that we're able to crawl and get information to discover new knowledge. And it is starting to be done right now. And that's truly exciting because one of the things that America is great for is new inventions and new
Yeah.
discoveries. Japan and China copied us all the time, but they really weren't on their own, except I do worry a little bit about China and artificial intelligence. I think a lot of that is hype, but still some of it's there. And we've got to really we got to stay ahead of that game against China on AI. But AI will allow us to discover new knowledge. New knowledge will be able to do just what you're saying, build the things and do the things that we thought were impossible 6 months ago. And what's great about our society, and I tell this to people all the time, is we did as Americans, and what Americans can do if they make up their mind, is that we discovered a vaccine in less than a year's time.
Yeah.
That 2 years ago, if someone said, well, we'll create a vaccine in less than a year, you would have told them to go in that closet and smoke your pipe, because there's no way that's going to happen. It takes 4 to 5 years, if then, and we did it in less than a year. To me, that shows, and I always preach that we can do things if we have to. We can move mountains. All we have to do is make it happen. And we have shown that. So in the rest of technology, that's what's exciting. We start doing the same thing we did with the vaccine to some of these other technologies. Katie, bar the door, where we're going. It's really fasten your seatbelts. We're going for the ride of our life.
Well, okay, so I agree. We seem to do our best when our backs are against the wall.
Yeah, it's very true.
I mean, we really do. We're very resilient. With an artificial intelligence, do you think they would be the same way, like if they needed to be, or do you think that is a uniquely human
I think
trait?
it's a very uniquely human aspect that can be programmed into the algorithm of artificial intelligence.
Okay.
And they'll have various things to show that the back is against the wall. This. If these 5 items are
contingency plans,
right? Exactly.
Yeah. Well, see,
and then does the humanity want artificial intelligence to do these things? That's the next question. There are going to be some people who say, I lose control. I'm having that box over there tell me what to do. That's not going to happen. Not in my lifetime. Just like doctors fought electronic records. They didn't want to do electronic records. I'm not going to write that. I'll do my notes like I've done. If you don't like it, I'll retire. I don't need that stuff. Yeah. We see that. So it's the human part side of it, which a lot of times will slow up the process of technology.
So when I think of, space travel and artificial intelligence, I always think of 2001: A Space Odyssey with HAL. Do you think early on we're going to have some quote unquote evil artificial intelligences, or do you think that we're going to get it right, or do you think we're going to have some hurdles as far as that goes?
Well, I think there'll be some hurdles. Years ago, I built a bot for internet relay chat. I don't know if you're familiar with that, IRC, back in the 80s and 90s. That was the way we chatted, our internet relay chat. And there was a problem with internet relay chat, people using file words. So I created a bot. And a bot went out, and if you said a file word, it would tell you that, and it would take you off internet relay chat if you did it more than twice. Okay, so we had a bot taking care of technology. I envision in artificial intelligence, we probably won't call them bots, whatever it will be, but it will be a monitor that will be programmed that if it sees an artificial intelligence box out there looking a little bit to the dark side, that it will snap them a little bit or tell the proper authorities that their ethics aren't quite on the same plane as they should be. Now, that would be monitoring. And that's probably what you have to get the folks involved in it who are afraid of it. Because the ones that are afraid of it are going to say, what will happen? It'll all go to the dark side and we'll be done. It'll all go. and
You want to
like
be Terminator,
yes,
Skynet.
you may have that problem. We have that problem today. We have bank robbers today.
Yeah, yeah,
We have Bitcoin fraud today, wherever there
absolutely.
is. So because of that, we know that happens. So we have to be on the guard against that. That's all.
Um, Gosh, this is also interesting. um, what is like if somebody wanted to get into programming or coding or something like that,
Right.
do you have any suggestions on where somebody could go to look into this kind of
Well,
stuff?
first off, they need to go to one of my sites called scriptresources.info. Scriptresources.info. All my sites are .info because their information is freely
Yeah.
available. And I list a lot of various areas that you can go to learn more about scripting and programming, as well as all the software they can look at. So they need to do that. They need to go to Coursera, or they need to go to another one of my sites, openeducationalresources.com, open educational resources. And I have a list of all the courses, thousands of courses that you can
Yeah.
take, and broken down into scripting and coding and this kind of thing. You need to look at that, and many of them are 100% free. 100% free.
That's what I
So
was.
if a person out there is listening and they say, "Gosh, it would be fun to really get involved in this stuff, and my future, I could be involved in
Yeah.
artificial and machine learning and all this neat stuff because that's good on my resume and that will get me a job," and that's true. Then they need to go to the various open educational resources because it's open, it's free, and get a list of all that and start taking those courses. That's all, and it's
Well,
online courses.
I was going to ask, earlier you mentioned that the internet has really become such a place of learning.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to eventually, the entire educational society or educational structure is going to be really dismantled? Because I know friends that are into coding and they say really they're looking for certifications
Right.
over a degree, because a
Right.
degree just
Exactly.
shows a degree.
That's right.
A
And
degree
what
just
we
shows how to do work for 4 years, 5 years, however long, but a certification's showing, you can do this, project or this coding or
Exactly. And we're going to see more of that happening. We're seeing some of that happening now, getting certificates of certifications they've taken the course. But more important, we're going to see competency certifications
yeah,
so that you'll know that person is competent in that area and this type of a thing. And the courses are important, but these competency tests will be based on you actually doing something. You
yeah,
going
doing the
out and
work.
this type of a thing. We're going to see that. That's a little bit slow behind it because all this. But I hate to say this, but the pandemic has made education, all this happen because
Yeah,
it's forced education into a Zoom box
yeah.
to be able to do this. And now people are saying, "Gee, I thought about doing this, but I like school." Or now they're doing it, and they're saying, "Well, it's not as bad as I thought it was, and maybe I can combine. We'll go back to school. I can combine some more scripting on a side and this type of a thing." So it's going to
It
be
can be
where it's
done
going to
at any
affect.
time.
Yeah, and where it's going to affect it the most is higher education.
Yeah,
A lot of people in higher education are worried because many people are going to do that strictly online. Because high school, when you're out of high school, you're going to look for other types of things. You're going to specialize in scripting, specialize in machine learning, specialize in artificial, and you can do that all online. So that's the colleges of bricks and mortars have to have some concern for the future because of what has happened online. And the
so
teachers are getting younger. See, part of the
yeah,
problem is your old professors didn't really want to be online. They like to be a lecturer, stand up there,
yeah.
watch everybody sleep, and give the lecture, and then go back and everybody praise you. Now, with the advent of online the way it is, and they're using all sorts of new novelty items to keep you awake, so you
Yeah.
can learn. I mean, that hasn't changed in 100 years. But they're getting better at that because they're getting information and surveys of what works and what doesn't. We're going to see that a lot of changes in the higher education of this country, and to me, again, exciting.
Yeah. Do you have any opinion on Elon Musk's Neuralink?
Yeah, he wants to connect the
Is that
computer to the brain.
freaky? Is that?
Yeah, it's real freaky. Uh, Love Elon. Love
I do
Elon.
too.
And he's
I
not
think he's the
afraid to do
best.
anything. He's not
Yeah.
afraid to do anything. Give the guy credit.
Yeah.
Bitcoin goes up, everything. And, he touches
Anything that
everything, how it turns to gold.
yeah.
Uh, but I do think, and you hear about that, then you don't hear about that. And I'm hoping that's the positive news that maybe because you're trying to connect into the neural network of the brain. Now, what he wants to do is he wants to be able to teach people and give people information without you having to learn it.
Yeah.
just going to go into your brain. That
Yeah.
may happen, but then that's very scary because we can then say that's brainwashing.
Well, can't
That,
you?
you
Couldn't
know,
that be hacked if it's
sure,
connected
of course,
through
any
Bluetooth? I mean,
life can be hacked.
yeah,
They're just, and I tell people that you've got to prepare yourself always. And yes, that could be hacked. Now, if he really was getting involved into the direct mind neural connect, he'd be thinking more about reduced environmental stimulation therapy. That's when you go into to reduce your environment completely. You go into an environment where you float, you're super suggestible, then you put in what you want to learn. That has been done in sports, especially with terrific types of things. It's not plugging into your brain. It's making your brain hyper suggestible because you have no outside environment to distract it. If you think about it, if you didn't have an outside environment to distract you and someone was telling you something, you'd be able to remember it
you'd
very.
retain.
It's a
Yeah,
little distractions. It's a horn blowing, or it's these type of things. So there's ways to do that, but I don't think the neural way. It may work, but it's definitely no question in my mind
that's
brainwashing.
yeah. That's too. It seems too good. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, is
Well,
it?
and it probably where you can get more information on that anywhere is in China.
Yeah,
If any country has done it, they have.
yeah. No, I
Hate to
agree.
say that, but they're into that type of stuff.
Well, okay. Speaking of data and stuff again, when I was younger, I was in, I want to say second or third grade during 9/11. And from 9/11, we got the Patriot Act, and that allowed just extreme,
Surveillance.
essentially surveillance,
Right.
spying on the American public. And I didn't, really understand all that as a child, but now that I've gotten older, I've kind of recognized, wow, like it's so pervasive. I will talk to my wife about something, and then the next day see an ad for it on, you know, Facebook
Right.
or Twitter or whatever. Um, our data is obviously very valuable, and there's currently no way for people to monetize their own data. Do you think that there is, or is there currently a way so that people can be more secure as far as their data? I mean, keeping it hidden, um, talking points and ideas to each other that are not being monitored, not easily accessible.
Yeah,
Um,
there's no question but it requires a little bit of work on your part, on the part of the person. I've done a awareness watch newsletter for 19 years, and in my March issue, volume 19, number 3, I do on privacy. It's called 2021 Guide to Privacy Resources and Tools, and I have many pages of URLs showing you where you can find how you can go stealth, all that. But it takes some work to be able to do that. Now, some things on your iPhone and on your computer that you can do that's not real difficult, that cuts the computer or the iPhone from sending the information back to Mac or sending the information back to Google, which you can do. All right. They don't talk about it because they don't want
yeah,
that to happen. Now,
because
if
then they're not
everybody
making as much money off of you.
Right. And if everybody decided to do that all at once, then they're out of business because they don't get the information about what you're searching for. And if they don't
Yeah,
have what you're searching for, then the advertisers won't get you to sell. It's a vicious circle. I do think that I always said it becomes usability and privacy have become a big issue
yeah,
because as we learn more, we also are guarded about the privacy that we want to keep, this type of a thing. At one time, when the government was saying they were searching, it was impossible for them to search all the metadata
yeah.
that was out there and tell it they
There's too
couldn't.
much.
That's right. But you don't say that. You say we're doing it. It's the old story. With privacy, I think we have to educate ourselves. And if you still can go almost stealth, but if you want to just protect basic privacy, you've got to go to sources like I just showed in my Awareness Watch or other sources, and allow them to or you to do that. And that may be a business of its own coming down to who will be experts in privacy to
Yeah.
show people how to do the proper privacy. Many people just want basic privacy, but there are other corporations who have all their need encryption big time to protect all their documents, to protect all their intellectual property, which is a big deal because our intellectual
With
property has
China,
been stolen.
especially.
I mean, big time. So we need to protect that. So to answer your question, yes, privacy is needed. That's why I do my Awareness Watch newsletter, this last issue on it, because it's a big deal. We just got to get more involved in it. People using Zoom don't realize that when Zoom first started, it had no privacy. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, everybody said, where's the privacy? And then Zoom says, oh, gee, I got to figure out what encryption is. Quick, guys, get
Yeah.
that guy over here to come here and fix that thing. So they have. But yes, it's extremely important.
Well, I mean, there are products. I know Edward Snowden, when he was doing all of his stuff, was using stuff like Spider Oak.
Right.
I know I use VPNs. I
Yeah.
suggest people use VPNs. I've used Tor browsers in the past. That's actually where I first found out about Bitcoin in like
Yeah, Tor
2011.
sure, exactly.
Yeah, I was like,
Go the deep
stuff.
web with that stuff.
Yeah, it was priced in something was priced in BTC, and I was like, what the heck is BTC?
Right.
But is there, on top of like the deep web and stuff like that, do you think that and actually, I don't know this, it's possible that it is already a thing. Is there sort of something like a Twitter or a Facebook or Instagram, anything like that on the deep web? Is there a market for that?
There's some text messaging resources on the deep web that are basically privacy, but of course the deep web's, you got the dark web, the deep web, it's really
And everything in between. Yeah.
Exactly. And it gets blamed for everything because it's a
Yeah.
nice scapegoat as you go. So I've been involved in deep web for many, many years and use Tor, which is fine. There's other software. Brave is another one. That's a browser, right?
That's the browser I use.
Yeah, exactly. And you can safely use it. And there's many, many articles on how to use the deep web and how to go into the dark web as well. The dark web has been and continues to be monitored by policing resources because that's where they find many crooks and I shouldn't say crooks, bad people who have intentions of creating problems and this type of thing. But there's also a lot of people who just want to do it for privacy.
Yeah.
Because you can do it for privacy, and there is good privacy through Tor and virtual private networks and this type of a thing. So it's all good. Signals is another one that does that.
That's what I message on most of the time. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, yes, to answer your question, that privacy is an issue all of itself, and we can't allow ourselves to become cognizant of the fact that it doesn't stop. We've got to continue pushing privacy. The big corporations are going to try to take it away from us. Government is on our privacy side as a rule, unless it's something to do with them and they need information. But as a rule, they're on the side of the citizens on privacy. But we need to constantly think about privacy and think about what it can and can't do. Yeah.
Well, we've talked about China and the stealing of intellectual properties. With their Huawei, the company that is with 5G and stuff like that. I think the fact that they're not allowed in the U.S. so far, and I think the U.K. has rescinded their ability there. But they're still getting all of these other countries and all of these other allies. Would they be able to access stuff still from?
Oh yeah, but the other countries of the world don't have the intellectual property or the prowess that we have, or the United Kingdom has. Between the U.S. and United Kingdom, and I've known this for years. That's where the intellectual property is coming from. I mean, the real, meat. Now, the rest of the countries have some, but most of it have gone into the websites of the U.S. or gone into the websites of UK and get the knowledge and through white papers and this type of a thing, So, yes, to answer your question, if they're the companies in China which put script code into all their software that they send out they would be able to get information in these other smaller countries, but many of them just don't have the intellectual property prowess that comes from the U.S. and the U.K. But as long as they have it, they can steal it, and that's how and eventually they have to learn to be able to do it themselves. And I think that's why they are pushing AI real hard, hoping AI is the answer for them, so they don't have to steal intellectual property. They can create their own.
With China closing down and shutting down some Bitcoin mines, do you think this kind of presents a unique opportunity for the U.S., some other allied countries to kind of pick up where China is dropping off?
Could be, but it takes a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people are very conscious of the carbon print that anybody makes. And
what's your opinion on nuclear? Why are we not utilizing nuclear energy? Do you have?
Good question. I don't have an opinion on it because it's fine. Unless they think it's not safe. They've got some small nuclear generators now that fit in a box.
Yeah, I mean, you can make one in your garage.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't have that answer for that. I would agree with you why it hasn't. And even if you go back now and look at the green folks and all what they want to do, they don't show nuclear at all. When I think
that's
you kind of have a green footprint, a little bit of a green footprint. I don't think it puts out too much carbon. But I can't answer that question. That's a good question. Why it hasn't been, and I'll do some research on that because there's a lot of stuff that's come out, but France is doing it now. I remember some article. France is into nuclear big time, but
I think there's a nuclear plant here in Kentucky, but I don't know how much it's putting out or how the utilization of it or anything like that. But I think there is one here. It could be older though. I'm in Nicholasville.
Okay.
Just outside of Lexington.
Okay. Now I'm in Florence.
Yeah.
Just north of you. Okay. Yeah, I've heard of that too.
I think there's one here. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I agree. We'll find that out.
It may be western part of the state. I'm not sure.
But it's a good question. I can't answer that, and I can't see unless there's some really strong carbon problem or something. Everything's going to solar is going to, and it's a tough one. The country's history and a lot of its economy is based on oil and gas.
Yeah, the petrodollar.
Coal. Coal in West Virginia, the coal, and they're all trying to change that. And I'm not against change, but I'm against change for the sake of change. And it has to. We have to be intelligent. We need to be thinking what happens when a freeze goes to the propeller.
Yeah. We saw that in Texas. If you're not properly winterized, then
So anyway, very interesting stuff, and that's going to make exciting times. And hopefully that people will be smart enough to ask questions. That doesn't mean they're against anything, but ask intelligent questions to stimulate thinking. That can be a plus or a minus, but at least stimulate the thinking on it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it seems to me if you were able to utilize nuclear power and quantum computing to mine cryptocurrency, you would be able to do.
Oh, no question about it.
I mean, just.
Oh, no question about it.
It would be no problem.
You just come up with a great idea. So,
yeah.
But the quantum computer will cost them. It's the upfront.
You got to get that.
We could go to a GoFeedMe or whatnot, and for a quantum computer, but that's a good idea. They were talking the other countries where these miners are going to, or other parts of China. Then they're going to Nigeria, going to Malaysia, and even said some of the miners are going to Iceland.
I've seen that Iran has upped their mining of Bitcoin to circumvent tariffs.
Right. Yeah.
Because they can just sell it.
Right. Exactly.
They don't have to use that currency, but they can sell that asset.
Right, the Bitcoin. Right, exactly. Yeah, it's interesting times that we're seeing on all this time, and it's happening. That's a big thing. Like I said at the beginning, PayPal, when PayPal now is into cyber currency, that's saying something because that's going to get a lot of people, show a lot of people the interest that it needs, and that's part of it too.
I kind of see PayPal as becoming essentially they're going to be a crypto bank because
Yeah,
they just bought that startup that essentially
they're
just
into it.
holds.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and that's
yeah.
going to be very interesting. Very,
Well,
very interesting.
it seems to me, um, the Fed has come out and talked about developing a digital dollar, and they're saying that the digital dollar is very high on their priority list. So we're already moving towards a more digital world. We're getting artificial intelligence, virtual reality, all this kind of stuff. Like, in a few years, you and I will be having this conversation, and we'll be in a virtual forest
You're
or
right.
a city, what
We're
cityscape?
in a holocaust.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah,
Um,
that's very true. That's all. And the communications entities, uh, most of the technology, if not all of it, is available now. It's what's holding us up is bandwidth.
yeah,
And once we get that bandwidth at 5G plus, where we can transmit 1,000, 2,000, 5,000,
yeah.
then we can do whatever we want.
Well,
Then that type of thing. And that's going to happen. That's the process.
to bring Elon back up, his Starlink.
Hmm.
Do you see? I mean, eventually, if the technology becomes, you know, better, that we'll be able to beam down 5G, 6G,
Yeah, yeah,
those
yeah.
kind of speeds.
Yeah, and he's working a Starlink to do just
Yeah,
that. A lot of astronomers are very upset with him though because of these low-flying
yeah,
satellites. There say it takes a lot of viewing away from astronomers and astronomy. So, good old Elon, he just did it,
yeah.
and
Well,
150 at a time, and
yeah,
but there's astronomers who are very concerned about it. So it's not
yeah,
just but to answer your question, I think that we will be able to have internet accessible all over the world
yeah,
at a very high rate of speed, which tells me then why the education market will
yeah,
become $1 trillion market in the next 4 or 5 years when it has all the capabilities of transmitting information at high
yeah,
rates of speed.
yeah.
Yeah,
I agree
it's
with that.
fantastic.
Well, I mean,
World,
even in third world countries, you
yeah,
have
exactly.
access to a cell phone.
That's right.
I mean, that's how we see video from there. I mean, they have cell phones. You are able to access
Exactly.
anything from
That's right.
anywhere.
And now with the internet and with the different types of ways to get high speed everywhere, you'll be able to stream and cast your videos and everything
Yeah,
else, and then all the phones and everything else. We go hand in hand with that. That's will make more and more, and then they'll be riding their donkeys, talking on their hi-fi, and getting a course from MIT.
yeah. Well, Elon will beam it in your little chip.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, the world's going to be a wonderful place
Yeah,
for
yeah,
your son.
yeah, yeah. Um, Marcus, I'm going to let you go, but thanks for coming on here. This has been great. I mean, really, this has been awesome.
I appreciate the time, appreciate talking to you. And if you, again, all this stuff that I've talked about, the stuff that I have done is available from my site, Zillman.us. And you can go there and you can scroll down and you get all the subject tracers. And I made the subject tracers, the 54 of them. You can go to subjecttracers.com, and that's all. And they're all updated for 2021. All my white papers are at whitepapers.us. They're all updated, and I freely give that information to the world, and have been doing so. And because I believe that we help people by them learning and
Yeah,
understanding, makes a big difference.
awesome. Thanks, Marcus.
Thank you. Have a terrific day.
You too.
Bye.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Oh, that's